there's anyone watching my videos thinking, hey, I've always wanted to watch a grown man in a frog costume do cartwheels, but furry convention tickets are way too expensive, then I've got just the movie for you. As shocking as it is that I am talking about a movie that doesn't feature a single puppet, I feel it's always good to expand my horizons, because if you don't, are you truly living your life to the fullest? This isn't a movie that's new to me. I actually watched this about 2 or 3 years ago, and I remember liking it. I also remember it being ridiculous, so I'm going to cover it here. The opening credits have a fairly well-animated, dapper frog, though it might seem a little misleading. This movie is not a cartoon, though it is a musical, which it lets you know right away. The first number of the movie is Princess Zora happily waking up and singing about how lonely she is, because she doesn't have friends, because don't we all? I know the first thing I do in the morning is joyfully sing about how depressed I am, so I can't make fun of her too much. She even has the audacity as she's singing to tell the goldfish in her room that she was so lonely and miserable because up to this point they were her only friends, which I'm sure the fish are sitting there like, wow, thanks, that cuts real deep, yo. But she has hope for friendship, of course, because she reveals her huge ball, made of gold, that's apparently lucky. So surely if she shows people her impressive golden ball, then they'll want to be her friends. I'm sorry, but it was a dumb toy in the fairy tale, and it's just as dumb and pointless in this, especially since the movie has a fixation with it. A gold ball is heavy. It won't bounce. It's like lawn darts. Its only use is as a lethal weapon, and it can't possibly be a good idea. But she apparently carries this solid gold toy around all the time, so I'm honestly shocked she's not jacked. There's a reason she's lonely, and that's because everyone in this castle is mean as hell to her for absolutely no reason. Even the people who should be respecting her, like the cook in the embassy, so clearly there's no threat of being executed in this kingdom. Zora opens the door to the kitchen, and the cook is just standing there, right at the door, juggling eggs, and he's like, "Go away! I'm scrambling my eggs!" Like he wasn't hoping someone would witness his sick juggling talent. However, the worst person is Zora's older sister, Henrietta. She actually has a sign on her door that says, "Zora, go away." Also, don't ask me why, but Zora has a portrait of her older sister in her bedroom that also looks nothing like Henrietta. Henrietta is a huge, gaping A to C throughout this entire movie. So the basic conflict of the movie is that the two sisters have been raised by their uncle, but only one of them is the true princess, and there's going to be a ceremony to determine that. And they keep comparing Zora to Henrietta, the way bad parents do to their kids, which I was just so annoyed by, because Zora says at one point that she's 12 and a half, so she's a kid. She's not going to act the same as her older sister, and she already seems pretty mature for her age, so everyone is just being critical for no legitimate reason. Their uncle is a nice man, but he's sort of blustery and bumbly like a classic Disney father. So Zora tries to act like a princess, and she even dresses up for dinner like her sister does, but everyone laughs at her outfit and she leaves the room, humiliated. The outfit she's wearing is a feathery cape and a headband with a feather in it, so yes, silly. But apparently no one's taught her what a proper outfit for dinner is. More on that later. There's a heartbreaking scene where she gives her cape and feather to the sleeping drunk guard and then wanders the garden. Her ball accidentally drops in the well, just to make her feel worse about life. That's when we were introduced to the Frog Prince, and he makes the most nightmarish appearance I've ever seen. The mask they've got the guy wearing is awful. It's like the reptilian aliens from the V miniseries, the original, or Snake from that drug PSA. He shows up in the water like the dead marshes seen in Lord of the Rings and scares Zora initially. However, after that point, the writers and director do a very good job of making him non-threatening. He maintains a comfortable amount of personal space from Zora when they talk together, and he's actually charming with a nice voice. Also, earlier in the movie, Henrietta is looking at a book of eligible bachelors and mentions the Prince of Friedley is missing. So, you know perfectly well this is the prince. But for whatever reason, he doesn't want to tell Zora that, and he makes up some BS story about his froggy childhood by way of a song. He only offers her the ball she dropped after she promises to be his friend and take him to the castle, which he's kind of pushy about, but he is under a curse, so I'd cut him some slack for that. The scene where they both sneak into the castle is hilarious for several reasons that you have to watch the movie to understand. Zora's new friend is really kind and understanding, and he actually teaches her how to feel good about herself, like a real friend should. And it's super sweet. They have good chemistry, so you can believe that they get along. He later teaches her how to dance and act like a princess, and I was like, shouldn't she have had these sort of lessons already? What has she been doing all day for all this time? It seems like the adults dropped the ball when actually preparing Zora for anything in life, and yet despair about how she doesn't act like a princess, so whose fault is that? Not hers. Henrietta and her friend catch the pair dancing instead of being like, holy cow, it's a giant frog in a cravat. Henrietta's handmaiden is like, aw, he's so cute. And Henrietta is far more upset that Zora is exceeding at something. So, yeah, no one's worried about the huge frog. So before the frog leaves for the evening, Zora gives her ball for him to hold, and then they sing a song about friendship. And I have to say this now, some of these songs feel like they were written by a 6-year-old who was locked in a room and pressured to write a poem, or they'd get their TV privileges taken away. It's like, quick, what rhymes with tall? Ball. One of the actual lyrics is, he's the best friend I've had yet, so much better than a pet. And I'm losing my mind just thinking about it. Well, Henrietta kidnaps the poor frog with intent to kill because she legitimately leaves him trapped in a hole to dry up with no water. Then she returns to the castle and behaves like a complete sociopath by taunting Zora about it. However, her plan is clearly to make Zora leave and get her out of the picture, because in order to save the frog, Zora risks not being at the ceremony. So of course she goes to save him. And she tells her uncle what is happening, and this is where I lose all hope for the adults in this story, because she tells him, hey, my friend is in trouble and I have to rescue him. And he's like, well, alright, I understand. Try to be back by midnight. It's like, dude, you're a king. Send some knights with her? You have the means and the authority. What the heck is wrong with you? And he knows something's up with Henrietta because he confronts her, demanding to know what she knows. And of course, Henrietta lies to his face, and he says, if anything happens to Zora, you'll be punished severely, and I hold you responsible. And I'm like, you're the one responsible, you moron. Don't send anyone to help her or anything. You just let a 12-year-old girl into possible danger alone when unsupervised, you buffoon. This makes me mad. Well, it turns out Zora's ball is magical, so it helps her find him in the hole, and she gives him the most awkward and unnatural kiss on the cheek I've ever seen. And they had a great setup for it, because she gives him a hug beforehand, so it would have been easier for her to rush to him and kiss him all relieved, like, I'm so glad you're alright. But she slowly hugs him, and then slowly gets on tiptoe to kiss him after letting him have a drink of water. It's so uncomfortable. The prince turns into a human, of course, and it's the Prince of Friedley. He's a pretty good-looking guy, I have to admit, but I really wish they'd tell us how old the prince is supposed to be, so I would feel a little less awkward about the knowledge that he's been cavorting with a 12-year-old. If he's still in his teens, sure, okay, but it's a little weird if he's older than that, even if he's a really nice guy. He never comes across as predatory, he just makes Zora feel worthy and like a princess for who she is inside, which is a wholesome thing, and they could go either way, platonic or future romantic when she's way older, but for the current moment, how old is this dude? Overall, this movie has a nice message about inner beauty, friendship, and promises, and I do actually like it for what it is. It has a lot of charm and heart to it. I'd recommend watching it for yourself, and I'd watch it again and would still enjoy it a third time. Well, thank you once again for listening to my rambling. I've got a few more of these lined up for the future, so long as there's no art block on my end. I'm trying to think about a reasonable upload schedule if I aim to do this regularly, because obviously I can't do this every day, but I hope to see you again, and thank you for your support. Stay safe out there, y'all.